I'm Mohammed Raza, and the group members of Group 7 are Safura Rana, Wadia Suman, Arzu Ibrahim, and me. And our topic of presentation is performance management system. So, first of all, let's have a look on an overview. It is not two distinct past corporate entities were in a traditional way, part of which involved uprising staff from time to time to assess their, you can say, inputs, outputs, and productivity with respect to the organizational goals. The system then employed was cumbersome and time consuming, so that's, you can say, the main reason that made organization realize the need for change in their approach to employee management. The resulting restructuring that in short led to the evolution of the system that increased organizational effectiveness and employee productivity in very drastic manners. So thus, you can say the performance management system were born. Now let's have a look on performance management. So basic definition: what is performance management? So performance management is a series of activities designed to ensure that the organization gets the performance it needs from its employees. Or you can say that performance management refers to the process to ensure the organization connects mission with the work of employees. A performance management system is continuous methodological processes by which the human resource arm of a company make personal participatory in advancing the effectiveness of the company by achieving the stated vision, mission, and objective of the organization. There's a pic on the right side, which tells us about the performance management in a summary. Performance, actually, it tells us that performance management encapsulates key human resource functions like frequent communication, employer training for improved performance, acknowledgement of the good work, presentation of benefits for improved performance, goal setting, which is an important thing, continuous progress reviews, and real time feedback, etc. Okay, so there's a chart on the left side which actually tells the summary of the performance management cycle, or you can say it is telling that how the system of performance management works. The first of all thing is that the organization set a clear cut goal or a plan that what we are going to achieve and what are our objectives. Then they make a plan to then they make such things that they make the employees to act upon it in a most efficient way, and for that they also keep the track of the things, like they continuously regularly make feedback reports and document all the things, and so and so on. And then at the final end, after the project is done, there's a review. Actually, it's a learning process that is there something missing, or we need there are some type of drawbacks, and next time if they want to do something, they will also consider these things in their plan. So there's a thing that performance management system involve majorly two related activity. First thing is that evolving the performance of the employees, and the second thing is that helping them develop an action plan to improve performance. That are the most important things, that you actually the main goal is to improve the performance. So successful performance management system is something that allows manager to prepare employees for work by focusing on the most important components of their job. And there's some things that what are the performance criteria on which we are going to judge the performance. So they are quality of the output and the quantity of the output. Then there is a timeline of the output, that in how much time the thing is going to be done, is it in time or not, then the attendance, the efficiency and effectiveness of the work, these are all the criteria on which the performance is going to be judged. So let's move to the next topic, which is the purpose of the performance management system. Let's see that improve the company profit margin, it is one of the purpose. So throughout performance management we do things like effective management, goal setting, day to day feedback, staff directing and time efficiency, and we have improved businesses performance to boost the company profit through such type of the things. And then the other purpose you can say, which that's why we use the performance management system, another purpose is that it guides the staff along a suitable career path. In the performance management, personnel in the supervisory role are expected to guide the staff under them along a clear, defined, and progress career route. It means to give them a direction that where you should go, in what direction you should be going. Then next purpose can be to furnish the staff with valuable progressive feedbacks. Prompt and constructive feedbacks make performance management system run by hum HR more engaging and proactive. Feedback should be oriented for improvement and development purposes. That's an important thing. And the next you can say purpose can be to ensure the staff attain their SMART goals. Company staff can only attain the goals set for them, and sometimes they surpass the expectations only when they are absolutely clear about what exactly is expected of them. Goals that are regularly set, that are short terms, and which are frequently discussed are often more effective. And you can say the next purpose is to ensure the employee's goal related to and advance organizational objectives. So human resource employee performance management system to aid staff in seeking the nexus between the individually assigned goals and overall organizational strategies. This gives the meaning and purpose to the employees seek in their careers. So I have covered three topics. First is an overview, then the introduction and definition of performance of management system, and then I have discussed the purposes. Now I will hand over to Safura Rana.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Safura Rana, and today I'm going to discuss the different types and stages of performance management. First of all, I'm going to talk about the types of performance management. Here I've listed 7 types, and I'm going to discuss them one by one. First is general appraisal. The general appraisal refers to the regular communication between the employee and the manager, and it is continuous throughout the year. It is an informal way of evaluating the employees. The next is 360-degree appraisal. In this, evaluation is made by the people who are connected to the employee. They may be his customers or his co-workers and his managers and other people in his office and department. It is an important evaluation because the co-workers can provide a better insight about the employee. Next is technological performance appraisal. It evaluates the technological skills of the employees because they have specialized tasks. Next is employee self-assessment. It refers to the self-evaluation of the employee about himself and this as well as his manager, and both the evaluations are compared and the differences are then discussed. It offers employees with a valuable opportunity to reflect on their level of performance and contribution. Another type of performance management is manager performance appraisal. Apart from employee, the managers are also evaluated on the basis how they deal with the clients, what are their job skills, and their human resource skills. Now, another evaluation is project evaluation review, and it is an important tool as it helps in the evaluation of the employees as soon as the project ends, instead of waiting for the end of the year. It is necessary as they can make improvements for the next project rather than waiting for the end of the year. Another type is sales performance appraisal. In this, the salesmen are evaluated based on the comparison of their goals, which they made in the start of the year, compared with the results they gained at the end. They are closely related to the finances of the organization. Therefore, this type of evaluation is very important for the organization. And the managers discuss the goals and the problems with the employees. Having talked about the types, now I'm going to discuss the stages which are followed in generally followed in a performance management, and it is divided into 4 stages, and which are completed over the year and repeated every year. Therefore, it is referred to as performance management cycle. Here it is what a performance management cycle looks like, starting from plan, act, track, and then ending at the review. First of all, planning. It occurs in the start of every year with the general consensus of the manager and the employee. They discuss what goals the organization would be achieving by the end of the business year. And these goals must be SMART, that is, they must be specific, and they should be detailed about the level of performance to be achieved. Next, they must be measurable, that is, they must have an indicator through which it can be checked whether the goal has been achieved or not. The goals must be achievable, they must not be unrealistic, rather they must be practical. They must be relevant to the organization's goals as well as that of employees. Then the goals must be time bound. They should specify the time needed to achieve the desired results. Apart from setting the goals, an employee development plan is also devised in the start of the year, which indicates to the employees what skills and strengths they would be needing to complete the goals throughout the year. Next is act. Once the goals are set, it is important to put them into action. And this stage includes orientation, onboarding, education, training, skills, and all the activities needed to implement those plans. And it is during this stage that the development plan for the employees is implemented. That means if they require to learn any skills, they are provided the opportunity. This step is basically based on the employees, because they have to work on those goals and utilizing all the tools and resources, and taking meaningful steps towards his or her professional development, while the manager ensures that the employees succeed and thrive. The next step is tracking, which is usually done by the managers. So once the employees start working, the manager needs to continuously track their progress, give them regular feedbacks, counter any obstacles in the process, and instruct and guide them regularly. For this purpose, he has regular meetings with the employees to discuss whether the goals are on track of completion or not. Are there any potential risk involved in the progress of the process? Is there any need for assistance or need for learning new skills or new technology? Is there a need for revision of goals or not, etc. So the last step is the review. Once all the process has been completed, now that process is reviewed on annual basis. The whole year is reviewed, and this stage involves both the manager and the employee because they discuss whether the goals that were set in the start of the year are completed or not, the performance issues, what were the performance issues and what were their consequences, and the employee compensation increase is actually based on this review. And then they discuss the achievements and the lessons learned and any improvement opportunities they might have. After reviewing the process, the employees, successful employees are rewarded in the form of salary increase, their promotion, or any public acknowledgement. So this is all from my part. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum. My name is Safura Rana, and today I'm going to discuss the different types and stages of performance management. First of all, I'm going to talk about the types of performance management. Here I've listed 7 types, and I'm going to discuss them one by one. First is general appraisal. The general appraisal refers to the regular communication between the employee and the manager, and it is continuous throughout the year. It is an informal way of evaluating the employees. The next is 360-degree appraisal. In this, evaluation is made by the people who are connected to the employee. They may be his customers or his co-workers and his managers and other people in his office and department. It is an important evaluation because the co-workers can provide a better insight about the employee. Next is technological performance appraisal. It evaluates the technological skills of the employees because they have specialized tasks. Next is employee self-assessment. It refers to the self-evaluation of the employee about himself and this as well as his manager, and both the evaluations are compared and the differences are then discussed. It offers employees with a valuable opportunity to reflect on their level of performance and contribution. Another type of performance management is manager performance appraisal. Apart from employee, the managers are also evaluated on the basis how they deal with the clients, what are their job skills, and their human resource skills. Now, another evaluation is project evaluation review, and it is an important tool as it helps in the evaluation of the employees as soon as the project ends, instead of waiting for the end of the year. It is necessary as they can make improvements for the next project rather than waiting for the end of the year. Another type is sales performance appraisal. In this, the salesmen are evaluated based on the comparison of their goals, which they made in the start of the year, compared with the results which they gained at the end. They are closely related to the finances of the organization. Therefore, this type of evaluation is very important for the organization. And the managers discuss the goals and the problems with the employees. Having talked about the types, now I'm going to discuss the stages which are followed in generally followed in a performance management, and it is divided into 4 stages, and which are completed over the year and repeated every year. Therefore, it is referred to as performance management cycle. Here it is what a performance management cycle looks like, starting from plan, act, track, and then ending at the review. First of all, planning. It occurs in the start of every year with the general consensus of the manager and the employee. They discuss what goals the organization would be achieving by the end of the business year. And these goals must be smart, that is, they must be specific, and they should be detailed about the level of performance to be achieved. Next, they must be measurable, that is, they must have an indicator through which it can be checked whether the goal has been achieved or not. The goals must be achievable, they must not be unrealistic, rather they must be practical. They must be relevant to the organization's goals as well as that of employees. Then the goals must be time bound. They should specify the time needed to achieve the desired results. Apart from setting the goals, an employee development plan is also devised in the start of the year, which indicates to the employees what skills and strengths they would be needing to complete the goals throughout the year. Next is act. Once the goals are set, it is important to put them into action. And this stage includes orientation, onboarding, education, training, skills, and all the activities needed to implement those plans. And it is during this stage that the development plan for the employees is implemented. That means if they require to learn any skills, they are provided the opportunity. This step is basically based on the employees, because they have to work on those goals and utilizing all the tools and resources, and taking meaningful steps towards his or her professional development, while the manager ensures that the employees succeed and thrive. The next step is tracking, which is usually done by the managers. So once the employees start working, the manager needs to continuously track their progress, give them regular feedbacks, counter any obstacles in the process, and instruct and guide them regularly. For this purpose, he has regular meetings with the employees to discuss whether the goals are on track of completion or not. Are there any potential risk involved in the progress of the process? Is there any need for assistance or need for learning new skills or new technology? Is there a need for revision of goals or not, etc.? So the last step is the review. Once all the process has been completed, now that process is reviewed on annual basis. The whole year is reviewed, and this stage involves both the manager and the employee, because they discuss whether the goals that were set in the start of the year are completed or not, the performance issues, what were the performance issues and what were their consequences. And the employee compensation increase is actually based on this review. And then they discuss the achievements and the lessons learned and any improvement opportunities they might have. After reviewing the process, successful employees are rewarded in the form of salary increase, their promotion, or any public acknowledgement. So this is all from my part. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Arzu Ibrahim, and I am going to present the implementation of a performance management system. A modern performance management system helps to improve the individual productivity of a team. However, the key to achieving that is proper implementation. There are 4 ways you can implement a performance management system. The first way is clarify expectations. It clearly states in specific terms the output and attitude expected of the employees. Second one is observe and assist performance. That is, watch alternative as the plan is, put into actions, and intervene where and when necessary to ensure compliance. The third one is evaluate performance, which means assess outcomes and behavior in the process of task execution. The fourth one is interact and positively review. It means to discuss the performance, share observations, request for employee feedback, and jointly innovate on how to improve in future. Next, we will come towards the components of a performance management system. The very first component is setting goals. What we mean by setting goals? We mean setting realistic goals for employees, inspiring them to strive or to achieve better results which impact positively on the company's overall productivity. This is because individual goals should be aligned with departmental goals, which in turn should be a subset of organizational goals. The next component is planning. By planning, we refer to the quality and the degree of expertise the employee should develop in order to meet these objectives that are set out for him or her. These objectives form part of the organizational strategy. The next one is communication and collaboration. A good performance management system aids in building an atmosphere of free, open, ongoing communication about the team, tasks assigned, and challenges encountered. Constant communication motivates the team, keeps everyone on the same page, and makes you proactive. The next component is performance evaluation. These are regular short-term check-ins to assess how well an employee is performing on tasks or assignments allocated to him or her, allows for the mid-course correction when deviations are detected. Here we comes with performance reviews. These reviews, which can be annually or quarterly, allow the staff first to self-evaluate themselves before supervisors rate their performance. In recent time, the introduction of 360-degree evaluation has greatly enhanced the process and increased team productivity. Good performance and recognition. A critical aspect of a performance management system is the recognition and reward for high performance. This creates an atmosphere of fair play and a level playing field within the organization. The second last one is feedback. This component of a performance management system gives you the opportunity to point out personal areas of weakness, room for improvement, and strategies on how to achieve. Such employees are more likely to be productive than those not exposed to these processes. And the last one is learning and development. Active learning and development, which is an integral part of a performance management system, should be promoted aggressively. It should be ongoing and will help staff attain their performance potential. Thank you so much.
Assalamu alaikum, dear listeners. This is Wadia Saman, and I hope that you've enjoyed the talk given by my team members on performance management. Performance management is a very important, very crucial element, a very crucial topic in human resource management, and it is a very complicated process because it helps us to, first of all, critically identify the elements which are crucial for evaluating our workforce performance and whether our workforce is meeting the objectives of our organizations or not. And as with any human resource management concern, performance management itself as a process is a very complicated process. And it can have many benefits, and it can also have many limitations. And in my discussion, I'm going to talk about the benefits as well as limitations of performance management. One thing I would like to point out over here is that in the entire discussion, I'm going to be referring to performance management as PM, using the initials. So let's keep that in mind, and let's get started. So first of all, the very important aspect in terms of which I would like to talk about the benefits would be the human capital. The human capital means the workforce, the employees we've got in our company. And employees are the most significant and sustainable competitive advantage. If we recall from our lectures, or even if we think about it very little, our employees, if they are like the nation's best, if they are like they are the most creative ones, they are the most intelligent ones, they are the most qualified ones, then they are going to give a huge leap to our organization. And the abilities of these employees cannot be copied by other organizations that are in competition with us. So employees or human resources, the most sustainable competitive advantage that our company can have. So in other words, they are like a top priority, and PM process itself focuses on the human capital, on the workforce. And this is where most of the benefits we get to see out of a PM process. First of all is PM polishes talent. So the PM process is a continuous process, as my team members might already have told you. The PM process it can be, the review can take place after a year, or the review can take place after a month, or in any way. But however it is, PM process is continuous process, which means that you are continuously looking at a particular employee's performance, and you can easily look at the trend of their performance and identify some critical underlying parameters that are behind their performance, their good performance or their bad performance. For example, you have an employee who shows a very bad performance, and you identify through the review that their software abilities are lacking. So what you do is that out of the PM process, you can identify that their software abilities are not good enough, and then you can just arrange a software coaching program for them, or maybe refer them to a good coaching program and help them meet their limitations. So in this way, it helps the PM process itself helps us to polish our talent and make it and improve its standard. Second is that PM retains top talent by rewarding good performance. Now, everyone who has done good performance, they would like to be recognized, they would like to be rewarded. And this is what PM process helps us to do. The special awards and benefits given by employers, the company, to good performers identified through PM makes them confident in their abilities and convinces them to remain strongly attached to their employers. As we already talked about competition, you see that because our enemy companies, or our competition companies, they don't have the good level employees as we've got. So what they're going to do is that they're going to try to attract our employees. And if we are just going to totally cut off and not recognize our employees and their efforts and not make them a part of a family, they're going to be attracted to our enemy companies. So in order to maintain that, to maintain that strength, the kind of link with our good top talent, we have to give them a reward, and we can only identify good talent through PM, right? And the third aspect is that PM motivates employees to do better. Because PM process itself creates an environment of competition among employees. Whether your PM is being done by a manager or PM is being done by your peers, it is going to develop that competition, and it's going to force employees to self-reflect and improve and look seriously upon their performance and do better. Next is benefits for HR due to documentation in PM. I don't know if my team members have talked about documentation, but in PM, documentation plays an important role. So what is documentation? It's basically like writing down the entire performance management process for an employee. It's going to talk about the rubric, it's going to talk about the parameters on which we're judging, it's going to talk about the grading and everything else, the evaluation method. It's going to talk about the employee's performance and why we think it's good or bad. So in a way, it's a very essential element, because it's legally binding. So if someone sues us sues our company or something, if it sues our HR department, we are able to show them that and do something about it. So why documentation? Why this aspect of documentation is very important or very beneficial in PM? This aspect of PM is very beneficial for us as a company. First thing is that it shapes expectations. Documentation is going to lay out all of the expectations we've got from our employees in a concise and precise manner, right? So our employees are going to look through the rubric and they would understand what our objectives are and at what level they are expected to work. Second, it provides level playing field. Now, proper documentation has to be shared and reviews have to be shared with employees. So if we are going to do something unfair in our grading or in our evaluation, then it's going to tick people off and people are going to question them. So what happens is that because we are documenting everything, we are making documents of our review for our employees, for ourselves, or maybe in future perhaps for jury or anything, for justice, for courts or anything. We are, as HR managers, we are bound to come up with really unbiased and fair rubric with fair grading for our employees and also provide opportunities to them. And all in all, it creates a level playing field for everyone, for our employees, so that they could be confident and they would not question the system and they would keep maintaining better performance. Third benefit would be that it justifies employer reactions. So if you have a bad employee, your documentation can help save you because it's going to point out that the documentation or the record of documentation for that employee is going to show a trend, is going to give evidence that this employee has done these kind of things, and as a reason for that, because it doesn't meet the company's policies, because it doesn't meet the company's standards, that employee is now going to be fired or that employee is going to face some disciplinary action. So in this case, documentation helps us to justify what we are doing to our employee. There are other benefits of performance management, and first of all, it saves resources. How does it do that? Well, because it's a continuous process, and while you are in the middle of a project or of a program or of any aspect of your job, you are assessing your employees continuously in the middle of everything, and what it does is that it just in time, it gives your employee an understanding that if they're doing something right or wrong. If they're doing something wrong, they need improvement in a particular department, they need improvement in a particular domain, so they start taking action as soon as possible, so that the error that they've caused right now doesn't propagate to the end result. In stopping the error, in restricting the error, the PM plays a very important role. And what it ends up doing is that because the error is not going forward and we have managed to maintain quality in our process and our employees are now properly guided, it's going to save our time and precious resources, just funding, and ensure success. And the second is that the PM itself is a very adaptable, is very dynamic kind of process. Because performance management, PM deals with employees, improving employees and making our workforce better, which is a critical element of our organization. It has always been necessary throughout the time. I mean, PM, in some sense, had begun in industrial ages, but now even digital ages has not been able to cut it off. PM is still survived, it's not an outdated process, and even in digital age, it has become more efficient instead of becoming obsolete. So PM has always been and will always be an important aspect for running a very good top-level organization, and it will always be a relevant matter, a relevant process, a relevant issue for any HR department. Now we're going to talk about limitations of performance management, and of course, with any complicated process, there are going to be some drawbacks. So the first issue with PM process is with evaluation methods, with the very nucleus of PM process. So evaluation methods are very subjective. even if you try to make them quantitative, they are inherently very subjective, and they depend on people judging people. And in other words, they are dependent on the weaknesses of human psychology. Human psychology, when evaluating someone or when even self-reflecting, it's bound to induce a bias or technical issues, which makes designing employee evaluation methods a very hard task. And since ratings are the most common form of evaluation used in PM processes around the world, we're going to look through ratings and we're going to talk about issues that can be induced when we are trying to make a proper rubric for rating and also grading people according to those ratings. So first technical issue is obviously the subjective bias, as he already talked about it, that human brain is subjective and it's judgmental. And what happens essentially is that a rater, the one who is going to grade it or is going to design the entire evaluation method, a rater does not either consciously or subconsciously rate every profile on equal footing, sometimes even being lenient to some employees and strict to others. It's a weakness of human mind that we're going to exaggerate things, or we are going to not being able to accommodate consider every single aspect of what we are doing, or every single aspect necessary to evaluate a process or a performance properly. So subjective bias is bound to be induced in PM process. Second is the recency effect. It arises when a rater gives greater weight to a recent event when rating an employee. So again, it's like a weakness of human brain is that sometimes the rater, the manager, is going to become overly cautious about the recent events instead of looking at a rather larger, a rather greater history, a rather greater period of work of that employee. And instead of looking at the relevant time period, they're going to look at the very recent events. Perhaps their relations with the employee got suddenly bad, or they just got suddenly good. So they are going to give greater weight to recent events when rating an employee. It's going to affect. It's not going to give you a proper reflection of the employee's performance. Third is the central tendency error. So the issue here is that it's going to hinder our ability to compare employees and their performance. And PM process is all about comparing employees' performance. When we have a central tendency error, it becomes very hard to compare people. Why? Because in central tendency errors, a rater gives all employees a grade within a narrow range around the average of the scale, making meaningful comparison difficult. So even if you have first of all a very narrow range in which you've rated, typically around the average, you've rated your employees. And if you're going to consider the employee who is a little bit below the average, you're not going to be able to understand why they did so. I mean, they might as well be just equal to average, because you would not be able to explain the comparison in rigorous statistical terms, right? Because that could be just a random error. That could be just, for some random reasons, it might be falling down a little bit instead of falling down significant standard deviations from the performance. So this kind of issues are bound to happen when you are judging people, or when you are evaluating people on the basis of a very subjective approach, which is bound to be continuous and can be cumbersome. Fourth is the halo effect. In fact, the halo effect and horns effect. So this also speaks of the blindness, the kind of psychological blindness that the humans have, that we're going to take a very small event and we're going to apply our understanding of that event to the entire general universe. And this is what we see in halo effect and horns effect. So in halo effect, rater gives an employee high scores on all criteria due to good performance in just one area of assigned responsibilities. And then there is the horns effect, which is completely opposite of that. It happens when rater gives low scores on all criteria just because of a lackluster performance in one area of assigned responsibilities. So that's all about the issues in evaluation methods. Now we're moving on to the limitations of documentation. Now, if you recall, I just said that documentation is very important part of a PM process because it's going to kind of create an evidence for how you're acting towards your employee, or kind of explain what their performance has been like. But documentation comes with a lot of issues. First is that it makes it all a very tedious process. I mean, the PM process is bound to happen over and over again, and you're going to write stuff over and over again. Even with software tools, it's going to be very cumbersome for you, for an HR manager. So it takes up a lot of time, and it's really cumbersome. And as we just said, it takes up a lot of time of HR manager, in which HR manager might be doing something more important, such as giving more attention to mentoring the employee. The documentation process of PM really, makes it a bit difficult to handle. So why do we say that mentoring is very important? Because manager, we understand that manager is like a leader for a team. Manager is like, a mentor for the employees working under him. So there should be a human-to-human connection. The leader's connection with the team is very important to make sure that the team, everybody in the team is performing better, and everybody in the team is getting enough recognition. So for that, human-to-human relation is much more important than just handing out cold documents to your employee and telling them, okay, you've got these, you should just read it and then try to improve yourself. So it's better to focus more on investing time in personally mentoring the employee, having a two-way talk to your employee, a private talk to your employee, and talk about the issues that they've got and listen to their reasoning and try to help them out and raise standards. Third, it does not always, ironically, save companies from lawsuits. So let's just say in the modern world of social media, you have fired an employee and you've given off your documentation and tried to tell the court that, this employee hasn't worked properly, so these are the reasons why we are firing him, or why we are taking an action against him. So the employee might have relations with your competitor organizations, or they might have relations with the employees in your own organization, and they have relations with many more people, and they will use social media to disrupt that entire process. They will possibly make a case that your entire rubric itself is biased, it doesn't follow rules, or it's unfair, and then it can also lead towards problems for you and ending you losing the suit, losing the case. So documentation is not always a surefire way of saving you. So in the light of all of these, successful enterprises like Gap and Adobe have completely eliminated documentation from their PM process. They no longer use it, and they are doing very well. Third is limitations in the modern workspace. So with the current COVID crisis, we've just realized that the workspace itself has become very, very disconnected and very, I would say, impersonal. In fact, even despite of the COVID situation, where work from home and distant work has become a norm, companies like Google and other software giants have been using a very disconnected workspace for a very long time. They've got employees in India, they've got employees in Bangladesh, they even got employees in Pakistan who've never visited the Silicon Valley, who've never been to any of the Google building, let's say, or they haven't even met a Google representative in real life. They're still working for it. So the modern world, the modern workspace is very, very different. In this workspace, distance has become a very important factor, and many more employees are now being scattered across different geographical regions. And what happens mostly is that in these kind of situations, managers most often don't happen to be in the same location as their employees. So all of the performance that you see of the employee is on the computer screen. You don't know how much effort they've put in. You don't know what they're going through in their life personally. You don't have a lot of human-to-human contact between manager and the employees, and also among employees. So it's very hard for you to really judge the performance and really help improve situation, because how are you going to do it? Maybe the employee is cheating and they're giving you good performance. Maybe the employee is putting a lot of hard effort and they should be here in the workspace and they deserve to be here despite of some kind of some little bit of problems they're facing in their life. So all of these things make creating a proper PM process very difficult. How are you going to evaluate these people? How are you going to evaluate these employees who are deservingly your employees? You can't just fire them off on just a whim. So managers cannot easily design a proper PM process to evaluate and reward or warn employees whose efforts and labors are unknown to them. And even peer evaluation, which means the employees judging their colleagues, is also erroneous because of less human contact. So, and finally, the psychological implications, which are the most important limitations of PM process, because as I said, the PM process is going to involve judgments, and these judgments can easily take employees off. I'm going to be looking into the psychological implications in terms of the SCARF model for performance conversation. It's from David Rock's SCARF, a brain-based model for collaborating with and influencing others. So it looks at human-to-human relation and human ability to perform when they are put in a certain situation. And it's going to be an interesting model to understand what kind of pressure a PM process puts an employee in. And that can actually make them demotivated, that can actually make them very stressed out, which is happening very often. So what happens essentially is that every 5 seconds, our brain computes whether we are in a threat or reward state. So if we are in a reward state, we are feeling comfortable, we're feeling happy, we are open to listening, we are open to criticism, we are accepting everything, and then we are basically open-minded. But when we are in a threat or a flight or fight situation, our brain shuts off entirely, and our creativity all of a sudden slumps. We don't listen to what our manager is saying, for example, and we are in a stressful condition, and we just get down with, we just get entirely blue. Well, so recipients or employee's brain, the recipient who is going to get the evaluation, who's the recipient of this entire PM process, the recipient's brain gets disrupted through the following model. Well, first thing is as for status, and we worry about status. As employees, we worry about status. And as employees, we think that we've done the best job and we are above average. It's a very, basic human tendency of over exaggerating their own contributions to something. We just think that we are the best, we've done the best, and we couldn't have done any better. So employees think that they are above average and they're going to get a good rating. And they are constantly comparing their new rating with their older ones, thus being in a threat state, in a stressful condition already. But when they see that they don't meet the standards that they've set in their mind, it's going to take them off. It's going to make them stressful. So when they're in a stressful situation, they feel demotivated and all sorts of bad ideas come to their head. They're like that. They would question the rubric, and they would question the employer, or they would question the HR manager. Then the second element here is C for certainty, or in our case, the lack of certainty, because lack of certainty leads to risk. So employees stress out if there is a change in their score record, especially if it's a bad change, if their record has gone down. Third element is A for autonomy. So we as humans, like to be in control of a situation, right? But the PM process is not in our control as employees. I mean, it's in the control of managers. It's in the control of reviewers. And they take our employees' autonomy and they put them in a threat state, and make it hard for them to focus on discussion. So when we are we're not in control, and we're just listening and we're just following, it might shut us off from listening to what our manager is saying and paying attention to what we should do to improve ourselves. Fourth is relatedness, relatedness, and we always compare ourselves to others. We're going to compare ourselves to our peers, and if they happen to be our friends, our interpersonal relations are going to be affected a lot because of this. Our confidence may be shattered if we performed worse than what they did.